Take two. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy Podcast and Fantasy Football Hub. Paul, how was your weekend, and how was your Sky weekend going so far?
This is the third time you've asked me how my weekend was.
Sick the fucking death. Stub your weekend up your ass.
Yeah, I had a good week. Good weekend, mate. It was all poised around the Scotland draw for the Euros next year, so I was really happy with the draw. Spent a lot of time pondering over it and making some plans and such.
Making
like
some
so.
thrifty plans by the sound of it as well.
Yeah. It's difficult getting to Munich for the opening game, considering how quickly the prices went up. But yeah, good weekend. Sky, I can't be too disappointed. Bear in mind we recorded last Monday, and that was before the single game day, where it seemed like most players that people opted for had some sort of return, and I avoided it. So I did see a rank drop then. But this weekend, no transfers made. I've held Dunk through, so I only played with 10 men at the weekend. And the biggest decision for me was captaincy on Saturday, and looking at the Wolves lineup, didn't line up with a registered like left back or recognised left back rather. So I opted for Saka, and that worked out well. And Bowen made a timely return yesterday, so I didn't need to force another transfer. So yeah, like good, okay to good week, but again, no transfers used. I thought over and over about Dunk replacements and where I was going to go, and I couldn't afford someone like Trippier, who I always said that I would consider if I was going to make a transfer at some point, and just nothing really stuck out to me. And I'm pretty happy with my decision on that. And there was only 2 clean sheets at the weekend, so I wouldn't have picked any of the players that returned anyway, I don't think.
Yeah. Similar with me. I think how I'm measuring the success or not of my weekend at the moment is if I don't use any transfers and I get any kind of green arrow, I'm over the moon. And I think we're at that stage of the season at the moment where being thrifty as you had to be with your tickets is the right way to go, and I think it'll have long-term benefits in terms it's so easy at the moment in it to just shift around and try and get these extra games, these extra points and stuff. But so I was quite similar. I think I've risen like only about like 1,000 places or so. But again, I've held Dunk, not used any transfers, held Bowen through, held Watkins through, and things. So it's a tough watch a lot of the time, because Trippier and all these players who are returning. Yep. Are going to hurt you, in one way or another. But just holding on in there at the moment. My plans, think I've got 3 or 4 transfers planned over the next few weeks, which we'll touch on in a second. But yeah, generally okay. Good afternoon, everyone in the chat. Bake97 is in. Humble Monk is in. He's got 36 transfers, 130 points off lead in the league. I wonder what the average transfers used is amongst engaged players. Yeah, I think I saw a poll the other day on Twitter, and I think it was sort of mid 30s, something like 35, 36 seemed to be the sort of favourite. So probably around 35, I'd probably guess is roughly the average. I think Sam D. Taylor is in, as is John Acornley, Dave Hannigan, Bobby Shearer, Soft Poo, Jason Manners, Michael Blackburn, and Graham Craig says, even hang on, where is Windy? Where is Windy? Windy's always the first in the chat. Windy isn't here. Hope you're okay there, Windy. Lewis Price, Al England, Bert Welsh, Tomia, Jason Harry, Fire and Blood, Glenn Murray, and Tim WD. Great to have everyone with us. Firstly, the big news of the weekend was Nick Pope dislocated his shoulder. Looks like he's going to be out for months and months, which obviously we'll touch on keeper specifically next, but definitely brings him into my eye line. Paul, any early thoughts on that? Did you immediately look at Dubravka's price given the fixtures that are up and coming for Newcastle?
I didn't personally. That's not to say that I wouldn't have if I didn't already have a plan, but for me, I want to get Sanchez because I don't want to get any other Chelsea players, I don't think, and get them to cover off the single captaincy day, and then Chelsea's fixtures are pretty good anyway, and I can afford them. Sanchez is 6.6. Dubravka 6.3 is a good shout. I wasn't a fan of the Kelleher shout last week. I'd said in one of the WhatsApp groups. So we're talking about Liverpool defensively. I actually think the person I was having a conversation with brought in Trent, so they done okay out of it anyway. But I had suggested not bringing any Liverpool players in based on Alisson being an elite goalkeeper and how does that affect them defensively, even though their fixtures were poor. And every time I just added to my own thread when Liverpool were conceding either chances or shocking goals yesterday. But yeah, so Kelleher for me is not a shout, but Dubravka, I think Dubravka's a good goalie. I think he's a good understudy. I wouldn't be as concerned on the drop off. I don't think Kelleher's a bad goalkeeper either, by the way. It's more that I think Alisson's great at the one-on-one and the sweeper keeper type positioning. So I think Dubravka's a shout, especially if you're going to use that money elsewhere at 1.3 saving if you're coming down from Pope or whoever you're moving on, whether it's Areola, which I imagine a lot of people's getting frustrated with, and it's not that he's a bad keeper either. It's what's in front of him. Yeah. It's what's in front of him's a problem. That shocking back pass that cost him the goal yesterday, and yeah.
So
I think I've seen a stat the weekend about it as well, or someone mentioned Sam Johnson in every game that Crystal Palace have conceded this season, he's not kept any saves tier.
Oh, really?
So he's had it when they've kept the clean sheet.
I was going to say when he's kept the clean
sheet. In any game that they've conceded, he's not picked up.
That's interesting.
Saves bonus.
Interesting. I'm holding on to him still, but I can't. I'm looking forward to getting rid. But yeah, I have to choose between Dubravka and Sanchez. I'm in probably the enviable position of not having Areola. I can move him on Thursday if I like.
Yeah, Areola's hard to come off as well because West Ham are always playing second.
Yeah, so I've got a decision to make. I haven't really thought about it yet. I need to think about it a bit more. I can afford Sanchez to the penny, so it's just a case of I think Dubravka and Sanchez will probably be quite similar in terms of output until the overhaul. Maybe 3 clean sheets or a 6 or something along those lines. It's just whether I think that they need. I've got Palmer. I think I'm also planning on bringing in a Chelsea defender, potentially even Nkunku if he gets that point in a couple of weeks where he is fit and starting. So it's whether I need Sanchez for single game day potential, whether there's a risk for Dubravka for someone else coming in or then playing another keeper, which I don't think will either really materialise or just the 0.3 saving. Do I think I'll want that at some point? Which can be how many times we've been 0.1, 0.2 short of the move we really want to make. So got some thinking to do there. But you're erring on the side of Sanchez at the moment, then, by the sound of it.
I think so. But yeah, I don't mind both. I don't mind both those options.
Yeah. So looking at the fixtures, there's only 6 fixtures left for most teams. Obviously, City and Brentford at the time of recording anyway, we've got 5. Ben Crellin still thinks there's a high chance that that game is arranged for. It would be Sky Gameweek 22, which would be pre-overhaul. But at the moment, the majority of teams have got 6. What are your current kind of thoughts, Paul, as we lead up? Where are the opportunities for an edge here?
I've had a look, and there's not that much that sticks out to me of interest. I do think I've just said that I'm going for Sanchez. I do think that there's an upside to a Chelsea attacking player on top of Palmer. Whether it's I'd mentioned Sterling before, if Nkunku came back, even if he didn't, Jackson. But then I don't know that I would take the risk with Jackson now if Nkunku come back, and he's not on my never again list, but he's very close to it. Yeah, I don't know. I have looked a series of times and I can't see like a 3-game spell where I think someone that's that's going to play all 3 of those games has a high upside really fits into my thinking.
Yeah, I think the same. I think there's some reasonably obvious moves. Obviously, Romero is back on Thursday, so I think that could potentially be a popular move back, especially those who went for Anderson with Spurs upcoming fixtures, which are pretty good until the overhaul. 2 home games and then 4 games which they should score anyway. Kind of maybe not win, but definitely scoring and chance of passing and clean sheets. like that run there. And obviously, if you're not on Areola, there's the opportunity to potentially move on to Vrabka on Thursday as well, away to Everton. Arsenal go on a tough run after this Luton game, defensively anyway. I'm not so sure about offensively. We've had a question about maybe remove Saka, but I fancy Saka against Villa, Brighton, Liverpool, West Ham and Fulham. I've got to say, I can understand it from potentially conceding, so even though they've got the best defence in the league, those fixtures...
What put me off going for Zinchenko? What put me off going Zinchenko from Dunk at the weekend as well?
What was that, sorry? Was the fixtures...
Yeah. Like the first couple looked excellent, but then beyond that,
I just not. I can see them conceding against Villa, Brighton, and Liverpool. Not maybe so sure against West Ham and Fulham, but those three, I can definitely.
There was a question about whether Rhea was a good replacement option for Pope, but yeah, I preferred Bravka and Sanchez, like we mentioned earlier on.
Same, yeah. Obviously, the Chelsea run starts then either on Sunday the 10th, if you like, or on Saturday the 16th, where they have a run of 5 really good fixtures from the 10th up to the overhaul. So, we were talking about Sanchez, maybe Silva. What's your thoughts on Colwill? He seems to be the forgotten man. He's got a couple of attacking returns. I know he's not fantastic for passing. Is he in your thoughts at all for this run?
No. If I was getting any Chelsea defender, I'd pay the premium for Silva, even though he might miss one of the games. I think his base of picking up the passing bonus, especially if I would want to pick him up for the single game day where you get the double points. I think Silva would be the defensive option. But for me, Sanchez is above them both based on the fact that he'll play all the games and he's reasonably priced as well.
And looking at single game days, Spurs and Forest on Friday the 15th. You've got to imagine that most, if not all, people will have a Spurs asset. If not at the moment, then by then, definitely. We've then got Palace and Brighton. Obviously, with Dunk, he's going to miss this next game. Then he's got Burnley and Arsenal. So, as it stands, if he gets booked in either of those games, which is probably, I say likely, it can happen, and then obviously means he would then miss the Palace game if he got booked in the Arsenal game. Apologies, if he gets specifically booked in the Arsenal game. I'm looking at that fixture because I've got both Johnson and Anderson, but I'm selling them both in this next week. I wouldn't have anyone then, and I'm not like looking at the fixture. Like it smells a bit like a bit of a 1-1 or a 2-1 to Brighton or something. It doesn't.
Game finishes 1-1. That game finishes 1-1 quite a lot. It was Zaha used to always score.
Okay.
It was Zaha used to always score in that fixture, and 1-1 was really popular.
Is this the derby?
It
is the derby, isn't it? Yeah, it's just not a fixture at the moment. Anyway, I know things change. Not a fixture you get really, really excited about. I can't see massive upside for either team, so I think I'll probably skip it if Dunk did get his. Again, and this is a consideration I had when thinking to take out Dunk or not. Is if I'd have definitely wanted a captain for that day potentially, I might have taken him out potentially, but I think it's all right as a skip anyway. If he does get booked against Arsenal. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm probably in the same position as you. I had thought Pascal Gross, but then I don't even know who I would want to get rid of. Knowing that they play first, you're not gaining the extra game before it as well. I think I'd be likely to skip it if I rocked up and I was still on 3 at the back, so I couldn't move Dunk onto a midfielder at that point. Not saying I would even pick up a midfielder necessarily for that game, but yeah, there's nothing. I'm similar to you. There's nothing really stands out to me. The reason why I made the point about the midfielder was if it was later on in the game week, then I would perhaps have moved, like if the Arsenal game had been on the Saturday, and then I could move someone on that plays like as a midfielder slot prior to it. But there's not even a good hop-on point before it, I don't think. So I think I'd be likely to skip it as well. I was looking, as mentioned earlier, I had a look again at options for defender changes of who I could take Dunk out for and change something along at the weekend there. But again, say like 2 clean sheets. It was only Everton and Newcastle that kept clean sheets at the weekend there.
Yeah.
There's nobody that's hitting consistent bonus in defence really, that outside of people that were either beyond my price bracket, so like Trent or Van Dijk. If Romero had been back at the weekend, would have went, well, not against Man City, I wouldn't have, but if Spurs had been playing a different team and he'd been back, maybe, but you just can't bank on it. You can't even bank on moving to a Brighton player then, hoping that if, like, I know that you and I have both got Bowen, but if you didn't have the Brighton player, the West Ham player for Tuesday the 2nd, which is a single game day for Brighton as well, you couldn't even bank on a player playing that game as well, apart from Dunk. So,
yeah. And the only other sort of, obviously Wolves, sorry, we've got Sheffield United and Villa as a single game day on Friday 22nd. Imagine, Watkins ownership, I think it's 89% in the top 1K. You'd imagine a lot will be holding on to Watkins anyway. And then Chelsea and Wolves, we've already touched on Chelsea. The only opportunity I can maybe see is if this Man City game is scheduled for after the overhaul. Sorry, not after the overhaul. Scheduled pre-overhaul. It does mean that Man City would very likely have a 3-for-1 to finish off over teams like Liverpool. And Liverpool would have Newcastle, whereas Man City would have Everton, Sheffield United, and Brentford. So I think that's just something to potentially looking at right towards the end on Wednesday, the 27th of December, when Man City come back. If that is scheduled in, then a 3-for-1 is over Man United, over Liverpool, over Newcastle, over Villa, over Brighton, over lots of teams. So that's just something to look at, I think, as well, especially for those like Liverpool and Newcastle. Is going to be a really hard one to call. You could do a double up. Obviously go back on Haaland, but if you fancied someone like Foden or someone like that, it could be a potential there.
Yeah, or if Rodri's suspension will be served, so you expect him to play the 3 games as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So just some things to kind of look out there. But I think overall, just on transfer usage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hoping not to use more than 5. Unless we get a massive injury or something. Maybe 5 more.
What are you planning? What are you planning?
Well, Romero in for Anderson on Thursday. Probably. Well, I'm definitely keep a move. I'm just not sure who to. I've got Johnston, so it'll either be to Sanchez or Dubravka. That's 2. What else I think? I'm not sure if I want another Chelsea player yet.
What about Anthony Gordon? You thought about him?
Not massively, but maybe I should, because the fixtures are decent.
From an attacking
now, they're really good from now on.
Like if you look at, well, I'd argue largely defensive as well. But if we're taking from the Tottenham or even the Everton game onwards, from an attacking perspective, you've got Everton and Tottenham. Like, okay, Everton's just come off a clean sheet, but Spurs, then Fulham at home, Luton away, Forest at home is a great run there.
Absolutely.
Don't know if there's someone that you could be hopping off, or if you're sitting with Rodri now, is that something that you would consider moving Rodri to Gordon? Or there's definitely a few options. Like, I may have considered moving Bowen off, and I know it's one game isn't a large sample size, but I did think he looked well off it at the weekend there. And maybe it's like he's not played in a few weeks, so maybe it's just to get back in the swing of things. And he did play the full match as well. So
the hop off point for Bowen again, the same as Areola, though, wasn't
it? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like, so I don't know that it's a move I would make, but I certainly could see a few options of moving.
Yeah, you could. It's like for like, and the fixtures for West Ham away to Spurs is a really decent attacking fixture. Fulham's a really decent attacking fixture. Home to Wolves is pretty decent, and home to Man United at the moment is all right as well. It's not.
I'm thinking more if I had like Wang. If you look at Wolves play Forest on Saturday, and then moving on Hwang to Gordon. Then I think would be a good move if I was sat with that.
So that's 2, potentially 3 for a Chelsea player or Gordon, and then on and off Haaland is 2 at least.
Are you doing it? Are you considering that? Are you?
What a 3 for 0? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Potentially a 4 for 0 with a captaincy in there. Yeah, definitely. I haven't really looked at who yet, but I can't let a 3 for 0 up. You mad?
For the cost of 2 transfers.
You do know if Haaland will be back against Everton on the 7th. What if he picks up an injury in the World Club Cup? Yeah. You never know. Mind you can say that for anyone for anything, can't you? But
exactly.
Different client, no. Yeah, I haven't given it much thought, but a 3 for 0 is pretty big, I think. So yeah, I'll give it at least some thought, potentially, or some kind of or maybe a daisy chain. Don't know, but I think 4 or 5, and that's without any injuries. Wait, how many are you planning?
Yeah, I just they're like two or like 2, I think, and even the Chelsea thing, I don't need to make that because I've got Palmer and he could cover me for the single game day as well. So yeah. I just look at every transfer made now, and I'm getting 4 games. There's nothing that stands out. Yes, I could get an injury, and that would make sense to make the transfer there, or I'd have to make it work through to that end of the period. And I don't know. I think using the transfer later on down the line would be more beneficial.
I just realised as well, Spurs have got a massive gap between the Friday the 15th. Friday the 15th.
Saturday the 23rd.
Saturday the 23rd. There's a lot of 3 for 1s in there. Man United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea. Interesting. Yep. Okay. We've touched on keepers. So some of the other players we've talked about a few more already, but festive favourites. Some of the players that potentially we've either got or we're looking at. Romero, we've touched on already. For passing bonus, he's as nailed as Dunk is, right? I think so.
Royal got 80 passes yesterday. Had the most passes on the pitch.
Wow, on the pitch, really well.
Yeah,
yeah. Romero's nailed for passes for 4 to 5 points every game without clean sheet. And Spurs fixtures are favourable, so they're home to West Ham and Newcastle. Okay, you can say they're reasonably tough. But then they go Forest, Everton, Brighton, Bournemouth, and then United. So some good fixtures there. There's definitely a chance of a couple of clean sheets in there. Cole Palmer, what's your kind of updated thoughts on him? He had a knock on, he had a knock in the week in training, so it's quite tough to assess his impact on the weekend. But are you still as bullish on him as you were?
For its price point,
yeah.
I've got certainly if you have him, there'd be no hesitation in keeping. That wouldn't even cross my mind to get rid. Would I be as quick to rush him in knowing that Nkunku's back? Perhaps not, but again, he might be nice if you're not wanting to mess around with goalkeepers or defensive transfers. He might cover you off for that Wolves game, provided he plays in it as well in that single game day. So, yeah, I'm happy holding him. And if I had someone like Nakamba, I think I would still make the move to bring Palmer in.
Thiago Silva, are you bringing him in? Yes or no?
At present, no.
Okay.
But if I picked up an injury, he may be one of the first players that I bring in, even if it's a reshuffle of the team. Again, cover off the captaincy, especially if Palmer is in and out the team. I'm not predicting that, but there's always a chance. And yeah, I like defenders that get passing bonus regularly, so I'd certainly be looking at him.
We touched on Gordon, and the other one is Shah, but that could be any sort of Newcastle defender. Botman rumoured to be back in training next week. Interesting for Lascelles owners. I think they probably got a couple of games out of Lascelles still. And that's if Botman returned immediately into starting 11. So Lascelles done well. Exactly, he's done well for his transfer cost. But Newcastle defence, updated thoughts? I suppose we should take into account they've lost Pope. Who is he's pretty good, isn't he? So updated thoughts on those with the fixtures.
I just think everyone's predicting them to run out of steam sometime soon because they're running so threadbare in squad, and I've got a tendency to agree that something like that will happen. But I thought they were excellent again at the weekend against Man United. Like, I thought 1-0 probably flattered Man United from the game. So with 6 games to overhaul, I'm not going to pick up a Newcastle defender duck now. Like, overhaul time, definitely consider it, knowing how much kind of resentment I've had towards every time they've kept a clean sheet so far.
If you were bringing in Silva, would you bring in Dubravka to cover off kind of either defence, or would you double down on Sanchez and Silva?
Good shout. Yeah, I think one of each. I think one of each would be good.
Same. Let's have a look at the fixtures for this week, firstly. So, recording on Monday, so this is for Tuesday evening. Wolves and Burnley, Luton and Arsenal. We get to see the team sheets, don't we, for both? Do we have us? Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yeah, we do get 15 minutes, don't we, to see the Luton Arsenal team sheet and make a decision. Saka or Salah is an interesting one for me for captaincy. I think I'm on Saka. I think that Arsenal are likely to keep a clean sheet. Salah will get past it, I think. But I think they like to keep a clean sheet, but Saka's upside is big, I think. And against Luton, I think there's a chance of a haul.
He's also owned. So he's owned by 46% of the top 1,000, and Salah's owned by 72% of the top 1,000. So he is a differential in that sense. If you're looking to make up ground, you're far more likely to jump up significantly if you captain Saka and he does well than you would be if you captain Saliba and he did better on the flip side as well. Which is not often the way that I think about it, because I usually go with who I think would be the most popular captain.
I think with defenders though, they have got a ceiling, haven't they? I think if you're talking about Salah and Haaland, both of them are brace material, sort of 16, 17, 18 point material. Whereas with a defender, probably worth rolling the dice against a hard 10. I think in fixtures like this potentially. So I'm going with Saka. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Saka too.
And then Wednesday, more night of football. This is Brighton and Brentford. That should be a really, really entertaining game. Fulham and Forest. Not so sure about that one. Sheffield United and Liverpool. Palace and Bournemouth. Villa and Man City at 8:15. And Man United at Chelsea at 8:15. What a feast of football that is. Immediately I'm drawn to Salah away to Sheffield United for captaincy. Sounds like the manager has been sacked. I'm not sure it's been actually confirmed yet. But apparently
he was a Hibs boss.
Was that, sorry?
Paul Heckenbottom used to be the Hibs boss.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. But yeah, it sounds like he's gone. So depends on new manager bounce, if you believe in that. Are you on Salah, Paul?
I'm on Salah, but for a different reason. And no Rodri, no Grealish, no Doku for Man City. I know they've got a great squad, and whoever they bring in, I'm sure will be great players. But there was a thing about Haaland not playing well when Rodri wasn't in the team earlier on the season as well. So away to Villa, who 13 in a row at home.
Yeah, something like that
as well. It's going to be interesting. Really, so for those reasons, I'm going Salah as opposed to the other.
And then on Thursday, Everton, Newcastle, Spurs, West Ham. Son will be popular. Maybe Trippier as well, potentially. Maybe Romero. Maybe Bowen against that Spurs defence. Who would your captaincy shout be there?
Yeah, I'm just going to captain Son, I think. And yeah, I would say Son's best option as well.
And then in terms of transfer opportunities, I think this Thursday, if for those who potentially are looking to go on to the Vrabka, who are not on Areola, looks a good time. Any other transfer opportunities this week?
You just mentioned that Romero one and Gordon all on Thursday. options as well, and coming off Wang or any Wolves asset that you perhaps picked up on Tuesday the 5th as well. If you're, we know Wolves have got that single against Chelsea, but I imagine others will have Chelsea coverage in some form, whether it's Palmer or whether the move to Sanchez is going to happen. Even like the Sata Sanchez move could be Tuesday, Wednesday as well.
Yeah, good shout. Anderson's going to get a 20-pointer on Wednesday because we said he's going to score 24 points of the 4 games, and he scored 8 so far. 3, a 4, and a 1 or something. So he owes us a big one on Wednesday before we go back to Romero, if that is indeed the plan. And then on the weekend, Palace and Liverpool, we see the lineups for that one. Wolves and Forest, Sheffield United, Brentford, Man United, Bournemouth, Brighton and Burnley, Villa and Arsenal. I've got to be honest, I haven't really looked as far as this in terms of captaincy yet. Salah probably sticks out. What's your thinking?
Yeah. And if Salah doesn't start, I'm not convinced I wouldn't go Dunk.
Burnley, yeah. Yeah, good shout. Good shout. Villa and Arsenal will be a good game, won't it, as well? Blimey.
Yeah.
Well, Villa got a couple of crackers, haven't they? And they're at home. Interesting. And then Luton, Man City, Fulham, West Ham, Everton, Chelsea, all on 2 o'clock on Sunday. Spurs, Newcastle. Obviously, if Haaland starts, you get to see it, which is useful. Haaland get the armband on that day. Who'd be your second choice if Haaland gets a rest?
Son would be my second choice. The same opportunities that are on Thursday, if you don't want to go early, are available on Sunday, and Wolves play Forest at home as well, which is a good fixture. So the I think Hwang's on 4 bookings, so you could even wait a game out, see if he picks up a booking. But him again, or Sa again, can move on to players on the Sunday, and Chelsea plays on the Sunday there as well. So yeah, I do think there's good transfer opportunities both this upcoming Thursday in particular and on Sunday as well.
Yeah, so this Sunday the 10th is the day we're going to be earmarked on it as a really good hop on point for Chelsea for the next for the final 5 games before the overhaul. So yeah, it looks a really good spot there. Potentially Sanchez, potentially Silva or anyone else, because there's a lot of football that's going to be played between now and then, haven't there? Most teams are playing twice, so there could be some kind of ban or injury or something, which just changes all the plans, don't it? So yeah. I'm looking forward to next Monday's pod when you've used 4 transfers, Paul, saying you're only going to use 2 before the end of
Well, I was going into Sunday, and like if Bowen was out, I was going to move on Bowen, and
I was, yeah.
Should have go Dunk as well, and I was like, I could make up to. I made a joke in one of the chats. I could see myself making 3 or 4 moves this week, and now I'm making none. And I was like, nah, I'm only joking. I would never have made that many moves anyway. But I was half contemplating a couple of moves that involved Bowen. But yeah, pretty happy with how things are now.
I think we were fortunate, actually, that those games were the 2 o'clock on a Sunday. If they were 3 o'clock on the Saturday, we would have probably had some decisions to kind of make there, wouldn't we? Because we wouldn't have seen the lineups. Even the 4:30 on a Sunday, we'd have been like, because the thinking was Watkins was probably going to be fit, whereas Bowen wasn't, I think, was the kind of general thing that was going around on it. So it was interesting to see if people had taken Bowen out. A few questions, also very close to ask around the Palace and Brighton game being skippable if you don't own anyone. I think it's skippable. I don't think there's any like massive standout. Expect maybe Dunk to get passing, kind of a 1-1, but I can't see any massively highly owned high ceiling there personally. I think we touched on that earlier. Yep. Jay asks, what are your plans for Haaland when City have the blank?
Fergie's taking him out.
I'm taking him out. Paul's keeping him in.
3-0. Yeah, we'll obviously cover it closer to the time. At present, I'm planning on keeping him. I'd be open to some move if something emerged to me.
And there was rumours about potentially extra punishment for his confrontation. See his screaming face on social media. It was quite funny. I think I saw a tweet a couple of hours ago saying that that isn't going to happen. I don't know if anyone has seen anything since, but seen that there's going to be no repercussion. It was a tweet off like a journalist, so it may be right, it may not. Please don't quote me on that, but that's what I saw earlier. Yeah, I think I don't know. I am giving it a tremendous amount of thought, but 3 for 0 is hard to turn down. I don't know.
For 2 moves. I mean, it's different. Like if Arsenal had 3
Yeah.
fixtures against like Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley,
Mm.
then I would definitely consider moving on to Martinelli
And
or
bear in
someone
mind
like
it's
that.
over the Christmas period as well, so there's likely to
The
be a bit of
chances of
rotation as well, isn't there? Yeah, what to
I
think
had,
about.
I had a look at that and just had a look in that bracket and seen if there was any
Mm.
using FF Stuff's fixture ticker, if anything came out as blue or green or a combination of the two, and that. And as I said, nothing really stuck out to me.
Nope. Yep, we will see at the time. Mart, SkyFF, and a couple of people in the chat, Tim and David, Tim and L are asking about Rodri. He's obviously banned now. Liverpool have a 5 for 2 over Rodri. What's you thinking on this one?
That's then on the assumption that then you go back to Rodri afterwards, which if they don't get that rearranged game in, I wouldn't. So it'd be 5 for 3, which again is an advantage, obviously. But on that same premise, I think that I would rather go for someone like Gordon just now. And getting the same volume of games for him, you don't need to transfer him out then.
Yep. Dark Invader, I know this gets asked every week, but what would your ideal transfer count be overhaul at this stage, all the injuries and red cards? So not just count, Paul. You're at 2.8k. What would you take now at overhaul, rank, and transfer count?
What would I take? If I only used two more transfers from where I am just now and got into kind of mid 30s and I held rank, I'd probably take that at this stage and then try and attack second half of the season.
I think that'd be tough to do. But yeah, I think for me, 3.4k. I don't know. I can see myself using 4 or 5. I think I'm not entirely sure yet. I can see myself maybe. L just asked in the chat, what would I be moving to of Haaland? Like I say, I hadn't given it a great deal of thought at the moment because I'm very much a manager who kind of waits until the time. Obviously, you can eye things up, but things change really quickly in terms of form and things. So I don't really know yet. Is my honest answer. But I reckon I'm gonna. I reckon even regardless of that, I'm still gonna use 4. I reckon I'm gonna have 30 transfers left, and I reckon if I can be in the top 2.5 to 3k, roughly your rank, with four transfers used, I think I'd be reasonably pleased. Yeah, it's a tough.
What's your aspirations for season end rank wise just now?
Don't know. It's very easy to get downhearted because we're all surrounded by engaged managers with superb ranks and good transfer accounts. Like in the Hub WhatsApp groups, we're surrounded by hundreds of brilliant Sky managers who've mostly got more transfers than I have and got better ranks. So it's very easy to think, oh shit. But still, we are talking the hundreds here, not the thousands. And I will kind of luck out over a few of those. So I think that I'm not the best of starts. I think if I was to continue playing reasonably safe, which is what I tend to play in this format, I'd like to think I can probably get a top 250, 200, 250 finish from here, playing it safe. I think if I got on a bit of momentum, I had a bit of luck along the way, I'd like to think I could still push top 100 maybe, but yeah, haven't had the ideal sort of start.
So your aspirations top 100, like more realistic if you're factoring the luck element that comes with the game, of course. 200, 250.
I think so, and that's because
I guess
that's the transfer count.
That's similar to mine, as well in this position. I think.
Yeah, it's the transfers used. I think is if I was still on late 30s, still think I'd have a good cracker top 100 finish, but I don't know. The same as it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd be disappointed if my set out every season is to finish top 100, and if I didn't, I'd be disappointed. But I'd by no stretch of the imagination think it's a shooting at all. I think it's going to be very, very difficult.
It's just getting harder and harder now, isn't it? There's so many engaged managers, and yeah,
you just need but you need a good plan, and you need the transfers that you're doing that are 50-50 shouts, like the one where I made Matoma the other week. Like at any stretch of the season, that can come off, and he can get 2 goals in 3 games, or something like that. And those were the things that were all coming off last season. But don't get me wrong, there was a couple that didn't, but like 8 times out of 10, I would say those types of moves were coming off, and they're not coming off for me this year, and you need them to get the win behind you.
I think I'm going to rely on the 1 or 2 times during the second half of the season where there will be a big pylon moment, and that's what I like to hold my transfers back for, is those 4-for-1s for a big team. I don't mean for like.
Yep. Yeah, you mean a block defense Arsenal, a block defense.
Go all in on 5 or 6 City or Arsenal players, not just defenders but attackers, midfielders. Go all in, and they score, and between them they score 70-80 points a game for 4 games. That's where you see the those real rank halvers. So that's what I'm kind of holding out for, and just playing sensibly in between. Dale, who do you think would be the top points scoring keeper, defender, mid, and attacker between now and overhaul? Any early thoughts on that one?
I had written this down to look at prior to coming on, and I forgot to do so. I will go for defender Thiago Silva, goalkeeper Sanchez, midfielder Saka.
I think Saka as well. I like Saka.
And then forward, I would say, actually, no, I'll go Son instead of Saka then for splitting it that way. I think Spurs' fixtures are great in the running, and actually Romero might be the defender there as well.
Yeah.
So rival Silva. And forward, if Wilson hadn't been back in training, I might have said Isak here. But on that basis, I'll go. Oh yeah, I'll stick easy. Ollie Watkins. We've got Sheffield United, Burnley at home in this. I don't think the City game is too much to worry about this midweek as well. I think he could do well in that as well.
Cool, good stuff. Colin asks around, patience with transfers and things. Yeah, I think both of us are taking the patient approach. If you can hold rank and not use any transfers, that's a great place to be. I would do that. I would at this stage of the season, I would take that every week and just hope that people are just using the odd they just fritter away the odd transfer here and there. And while it doesn't seem like just one here and one, it doesn't seem a lot, all of a sudden that turns into 5 transfers, which is a big block. So yeah. John Maloney, important to remember, post-overhaul is 18 games as opposed to 20 pre. Anything over half transfer remaining is fine. Rank dependent, obviously. Good shout there, John. Thanks for the reminder on that. And Dark Evader just talked about blanket defence in previous years. Have you ever done one? And what were the results? Those who went in on Man City, was it 3 or 4 seasons ago during the post-COVID one? Boo. Didn't they keep like 11 clean sheets in 12 games or something ridiculous?
Zinchenko was playing left back as well, and Gundogan done really well in that run.
That was 2021 season. That was exactly how I won Dream Team. I had 9 Man City players in my Dream Team, and they were just battering everyone 4-0, 5-0 every single week.
And Arsenal last season.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. Thank you, Paul. And that is it from us for this week. As usual, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Your continued support is much appreciated. Hope you're enjoying the pod. Hope you're enjoying the football. Thank you so much, Paul. Where can people find you?
On Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1 MCA NULTY.
And my handle is at FFH_Fergi on Twitter. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. leave some comments. Would be much appreciated. We'll be back next week previewing Sky Game Week 19. This will be on Monday evening. We hope you have a great remainder of Game Week 17 and a great Game Week 18. And goodbye for now.